the name of these places. So, but just make sure we are looking for the 1000th place. So if you look at this one, this is 10th place, this is 100, this is 1000th place. So that is going to be your 1000th place. So for the number digit 4, so I will just go ahead and say answer is going to be 8. But some people are saying, so if you are given, let's say 400.00, maybe 4, stuff like that. So some people might want to say this one, but this is 1000th place. Just be careful which is 1000th place. Okay, there's a difference between those things. So that's going to be 1000th place. So which is number 1, which is I think clear. Let's look at the next question, which is number 6. Okay, I think we are there, so almost everyone. So I'm going to say we can look at the fractions. Since we have multiplication, we may cancel some stuff if we are given. So we can cancel those 2's, we can cancel those 3's, we can cancel those 4's as well. That gives me just 1 in the numerator and 5 in the denominator. So it is going to be A as well. I mean, not A, it's, is it F? Yeah, it's F, I think. Yeah, that is F. So yeah, 6 is gonna be F, so which is I think simple enough as well. So let's move on to the next one. So as we increase the numbers, so it will be a little bit challenging. Okay, just as a background for this absolute value, so whenever we have 2 vertical lines, that is absolute value of something, that is basically mean distance from the 0. So on the number line, that is called distance from the 0. So in this question, we have 6 minus 15. So if you look at this difference, which is going to be minus 9, so I will just write it as into absolute value. So, but the meaning of this absolute value, what is the distance between 0 and this number -9? So we know this is 9 units, so we can just write it as just 9. So which is gonna be, this part is gonna be 9. And the same idea, this is gonna be 5 times -4, which is going to be -20. So I will just write it as -20 in absolute value is gonna be positive 20. So now I could just replace those numbers into our question. So which is gonna be something 9. We have minus in between 2 absolute values, and the other absolute value was 20. So if you look at this one, this is 9 minus 20, which is going to be just minus 11. So just be careful. D is not going to be answered because this number 20 is larger than 9. So this number has a minus sign. So the sign of my final answer has to be negative. Okay. So which is our question 11. So I hope that is not too bad. That is basically the definition of the absolute value. So which is 11. I hope that makes sense to everyone. So first of all, in this question, let's say, depends on the question that you see this question. If this question is on ACT, you can always plug those numbers into your calculator. You can find the answer for each given numbers, and you can compare them, which is going to be easier. You can use calculator. But let's say this is a question in SAT, which is something you are not allowed to use calculator. Some question will not be. So that's why let's try to use not to use calculator option and find the correct answer. So we have 10 to the first power. If you multiply some number by 10, you just make this number 10 times bigger. That means you just move decimal point to the right by 1 unit because we are just multiplying that by 10. So the first number, if you multiply 2.1 by 10, you will get 21, which is option F. So in the same idea, we have 10 to the second power, which is basically 100. If you multiply by 8 something, you move decimal point to the right by 2 units. So it was 0.33. If you move by 2 units, that gives me just 33, which is going to be times 10 to the second power. and that is my second choice. And the third one, we have 9th power. So that means I need to move decimal point to the right by 9 times. So that gives me 1, 2, and you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 0. If you look at this number carefully, normally the point was right here, 1.2. So you just move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that means the point is right there. Normally, any whole numbers can be written as 0.00. So we can just write it if you like to, but in general, we don't like to add those two zeros after decimal point. So that's going to be my number. So this number h can be written this way. So it's going to be 1, 200, and all 6 more zeros. So which is, as you see, very, very bigger than these two numbers. So that might be our correct answer. As you see, this is 89,000, which is smaller than that. So which is already given. But in this question, we are given -6 power, which is going to give you, you just need to make this number smaller because we have the negative exponent. So you move decimal point to the left by 6 units. So that tells me 0.000049. So point was right here. So after 9, so I just move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So we already have 2 digits right here. So that's why I just add another 4 digit, another 4 zeros. So I will have this number for this K, which is the smallest number of those given. So that is gonna be the largest number. I hope that is clear to everyone. So if you are not allowed to use a calculator, so this is what you can do. You can just compare all numbers in their like standard format, which is just whole number or decimals. So that might be easier to compare them. But again, as we do practice, you are not going to be always writing those numbers in your like questions. So you can just look at the numbers you are given. You can see this is going to be always larger than the others easily. But this is a practice time for us. So that's why I just want to write everything corresponding place. So that's why I have this one. I hope that is clear because I see some people were saying the answer is K, but if you are really okay with this one, we can move on to the next problem. Okay, let me go ahead and move on to the next problem. Okay, this might be a little bit different, but I don't think that's also too challenging either. So let's see. In this one, I see the question is basically, she has a like bakery store and she sells different types of coffee, and depends on the, like if you see this word, which is something new to most people, so don't worry about this yet. So we'll talk about working with matrices later on in details, but in this question, we don't really need to know at all anything about that. So the below shows number of each size of the coffee sold. So that means on Monday, she sold 130 of the small size, 90 of the small size on Tuesday. So these are going to be number of small size, mediums, and large size. And these are the price for each size. And what is the total cost for the coffee that she has sold in those 2 days? So which is the basically question. So I could multiply 130 by this number 3, which is going to be the total amount that she's going to get after selling this much small coffee, which is something fine. But instead, I will add these two numbers because even though I have 2 different dates, these are the number of small size. I can just add these two numbers, which gives me 220. So she has sold 220 small size coffee. And the same idea, she has sold 250 small, the medium size, and 190 the large size in total. So, and then these are the price for each size. So I can just say 220 coffees, for each one is $3. That gives me total amount for a small size. And the second one is medium. So she has sold 250 of those, and each medium size is $4. So that's why I'm going to just multiply and add them. And the last one, she has sold 190 of the large size, so which is going to be 190 times $5 per coffee for the large size. So all I just do this multiplication addition. You can use calculator. So this question was a ACT question, but if you are not, so you can, I think, find this answer easily without using calculator as well. 3 times 22 will be 660, and 4 times 25 is 100. That gives you just another 0, which is 1000, plus, so 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 will be 9, which is 95, but we have another 0 right here, which is 950. So if you are not allowed to use calculator, so you can do this something like that. So I have 950. If I take 50 from there and add it right here, that gives me 1000. 1000 plus 1000 will be 2000, and this is going to be 610 because I already took 50 from there. So that gives me 2610. So I can add them easily, even without using calculator. So which is going to be our total cost that she's going to get after selling those number of copies. So I hope that makes sense to everyone, because even though we've seen some different way of writing it. So actually this question kind of introduces you the idea about the matrices. When we talk about the matrices, I will say you will have some numbers in this format. So we will call this is going to be a matrix, and this is going to be another matrix. This is going to be like 2 by 3 matrix. This is my 3 by 1, stuff like that. And we are going to multiply these matrices later on. But when we do that, you will see that I will say I will multiply these numbers by these numbers in the same order. I will multiply this number by that. I will multiply this by that. I will multiply this by that. But this is basically what I just did right here. But you will see in details how to multiply matrices, how to add the matrices as well. But for today, we'll not go into that yet. So we'll talk about matrices later on in details. But for this question, so without knowing anything about matrices, we got the answer. So which is good to go, I think. So let's look at the next problem, which is number 30. Clear stuff. So let me explain the meaning of this word stuff right here. So it says A is directly proportional to B. Sometimes we are going to see A is directly like varies like proportional, something like that. Sometimes you will say A is inversely proportional, but in this case they are say directly proportional, which is something like has a meaning in math. So that's why I just want to talk about that meaning first. So let me just give you some example right here before we get into this example, this question. So let's say we have X times, let's say K. Actually, let me just do this equals Y, okay? So let's say we have something like that. So X and Y are two numbers, and K is also another number. So let me just change this K to something. Let's say this is going to be 3. So let's say 3X equals Y. So I'm just going to give some numbers to see what's going on. If I change X to 1, then Y is going to be just 3. If I make it, this is 2, which is going to be 3 times 2 will be 6. If I do this 3, that's going to be 9. So as we increase the X values, then Y value is also increasing at the same time. So in those cases, we tell X and Y are directly proportional. So if your two variables increasing at the same time or decreasing at the same time, we call them, they are directly proportional to each other. So that's just one example. So we might change this number 3 to 5, 3 to 2, anything like that. We could maybe take another number, it doesn't really matter. So just reminds me, whenever you have multiple of two numbers equals to another number, then this number and this number are proportional to each other. So that is just basic background. So in this question, it says A is directly proportional. So I'm going to just say A times K is equal to B. So even though we don't know this value yet, I will say A and B has to be on the other side of the equation. So sometimes you might see this equation in some books. K is going to be just itself, so you can just divide this by A, divided by A, so you can cancel those. K has to be B over A. So some people are trying to explain this question in this format. That means whenever you have two quantities, if you divide those two quantities between each other, that means these are going to be directly proportional. So in this case, I can say A and B are directly proportional, so I can say K equals B over A. But this one or that one are exactly the same thing, so some people might, this is useful, some people might think this is useful. So it's up to you, but here's what you need to remember. If two quantities are directly proportional, then A and B has to increase or decrease at the same time. So if you change some numbers like B and A, so let's say 2 over 1, 4 over 2, 6 over 3. If you increase B, A is also increasing. If you just decrease B, A is also decreasing. So it depends on the K, it doesn't really matter. So I can use this one. So whenever I see the directly proportional, I will just remember this equation, K equals B over A. So I hope that makes sense a little bit, at least for the meaning of the directly proportional. So let me just go ahead and do this problem. So that will be a little bit easier, I think. So now I will say A is given 30. So I'm going to say K is equal to B is 21. So it's going to be 21 over 30. So if I just cancel those two numbers by 3, which is going to be 7 over 10. So K is 7 over 10, which is my unknown number K. So question says, what is the value of A when B equals this number? So again, I will use in the same equation, K equals B over A, and we know K is 7 over 10 is equal to B over A. So B is given 10 and a half, so I will just say 10.5 over A. So from this equation, I need to find A, so I can do cross product. So 7 times A will be 7A, 10 times 10.5 will be 105. So I can just divide by 7, cancel those. A is going to be 1 and 15, I think. So that is going to be our final answer, which is going to be J. I hope that is clear or makes sense to everyone. Okay, I got my first submission. Okay, let me see. Okay, I think I might start talking because I already seen lots of correct answers. This one. So I hope this is what you did, or maybe you did some other ways, which is fine as long as you are getting correctly in a way, so you should be fine. So in this question, some people might want to use plug-in. Okay, so you can plug in numbers right here. Actually, you cannot plug in. You can just maybe guesstimate actually. So you can maybe start from this number 24. You can just write it 24 is equal something like that, and you can do a multiply. But as you say, using the guesstimate or using to like another like techniques is not that useful, because as long as we know what to do, how to create this equation, I think that's going to be much easier, and then you get finally correct answer in your first step. So that's why, even though you might use guesstimate in this problem, I don't think that's going to be the best way to go with. So I would say just knowing content is going to be the best way into this problem. So, but there will be some questions that I will talk about as well as we see those one, and then I will start using some of the techniques that we've seen so far. But I think this is it for today.